All right, it is 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. So without further ado, we are going to get started with this month's webcast, Caring for Carers, Emotional Intelligence for Mental Health Wellbeing. As usual, we're going to start off our webcast with a couple of quick housekeeping items. We'll run through some introductions, and then we'll get into some exciting conversation about emotional intelligence and mental health well-being with our guest speaker today, Fiorella Velarde. Then we'll move into some questions and answers. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. We are recording this session, so it will be available later. We'll generally send it out the next week. The link's going to be emailed to you along with some other follow-up information. Because this is recorded and we're doing the presentation live today, we ask that you stay on mute for the course of the presentation. When we get into questions and answers, you're welcome to come off mute and join the conversation. Please feel free to keep your video on. We love to see your smiling faces as we move through this presentation. The best view is going to be speaker view or side-by-side speaker view. So if you take a look down here at the bottom of your Zoom screen, that'll give you a good idea of how to get connected. So we'll start with some introductions. My name is Abby LeMay. I'm the Director of Global Affiliate Initiatives here at the World Federation of Youth Clubs. I oversee our monthly webcast, the Promise Awards, and our annual conference. WFYC, of course, has many resources available to affiliate members and youth club leaders. And today, before we get started, I'd like to introduce one of our guests who's on the meeting today, Kirk Dominic, who is the World Federation of Youth Clubs' new CEO. So Kirk, if you'd like to take a moment to say hi and introduce yourself.
Good morning. Thank you, Abby. And I don't want to take much time away from this important topic, but I did want to take advantage of this opportunity to jump on and say hello. I've been in my role as CEO now for a little less than a month. And so I appreciate Abby's willingness to let me jump on. I want to thank her and Jacob for their work in making the magic happen behind all of these webcasts. I certainly want to thank Fiorella for her commitment and the things that you're going to learn from her today. I don't want to go without thanking my longtime friend and colleague, Glenn Permoy, who has been serving as the CEO of the World Federation of Youth Clubs to date. He and I have worked together for more decades than either one of us would care to talk about. The good news is he's not going anywhere. He's staying on with us in a senior executive role, and we are certainly appreciative of that. To the affiliate members who have joined us, first of all, thank you for taking advantage of these opportunities. And as you see the resources on the screen, I hope you will continue to take advantage of those resources. Let me just say that I am inspired by the work that you do around the globe, and we are unwavering in our commitment to doing everything we can to help you ensure the future growth, impact, and sustainability of your local efforts. So this is an important topic as we serve those who need us most around the world, and I want you to get to that topic. But I did want to take an opportunity to say thank you. I appreciate the way that I've been welcomed, and I look forward to connecting with you in more meaningful ways in the future. So Abby, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirk, and thanks to everyone who's joined us today. We are about to get started and turn it over to our speaker, but I would like to ask a quick question first to get us warmed up and excited about our topic for today. And I want to ask you to type your answer in the chat, but what charges your emotional batteries? So what do you do to take care of yourself, to help you feel energized and keep coming back to the work that you do day after day? I'm going to drop my answer in the chat, and I hope you will too. Seeing exercise, that's a great way to charge those emotional batteries, a little self-care. Mine is yoga and meditation, right along with exercise too. laughing with friends. That's a good one and an important one to do. It's getting outside, playing golf, running. Oh, wow. The answers are just coming in really quickly. More exercise. We've got a very active group today. Committed to self-care. I like that. Gardening work, taking care of plants in the yard, feeding the birds. So it sounds like everybody here is already doing some activities that help them feel prepared and ready to keep doing the work that we do that can be a little bit tiring at times. We're helping to make the world a better place in our own way. And there is no better person to speak to how we can charge those emotional batteries and have stronger relationships and just more emotional intelligence than our speaker today, Fiorella Velarde. So Fiorella, I'm going to turn it over to you to please introduce yourself and kick off our session.
Thank you, Abby. Thanks everyone for having me here and for being committed to this topic that is so important and is in a way changing the realities in our communities these days. Well, I'm a psychologist and I came to the profession kind of late, became a mom, and I wanted to get a little bit of more deeper knowledge, and I went and I did a master's degree. So I was in the business space before, but I was always working with people. And being in the business sector, I had this reckoning that I help people had more people problems than actually business problems. And so I start moving into that direction. I'm also an executive coach and certified with ICF. And as such, I have these conversations, during my day, number of times. And they all gravitate towards this continuum of mental health, what to do, when to get treatment, how to talk about these things. And I know it's the big elephant in the room. And that's why when the occasion for doing this came about, I was so excited and grateful, because I think we can always improve in looking ourselves and the kind of that inner dialogue that we have with ourselves in terms of mental health, our own mental health. And with that, that is going to empower us to deal with and be a better support for others. And one more thing about me is that I'm Peruvian. So if you hear a little accent, that's why. And if you want, I can write something in the chat in Spanish if you need me to. All right, so that's enough about me. So caring for carers, right? I love this title because, like I said, emotional intelligence allows us to use it as a tool for self-awareness first than anything. If I'm going to be handling this topic with empathy, with compassion, I'm going to be talking to my members, to my staff about this. I need to be able to look inwards, and we're going to start looking inwardly, because in 6 seconds we say that any little change starts in the inner side. So I don't know if I can. I'm trying to move the slide. If you can help me here, Navi. Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. So here in the screen, you see 2 graphics. And the one in the left is the 6 seconds model. I'm not going to go into deep detail into this, but the 6 seconds model, it's a very effective way to look at ourselves and to say, okay, am I connecting my what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what are my tendencies, what is happening for me in this moment with what I want to do, how I want to execute with my direction. And these are the 3 colors in the model. The first one, know yourself, is blue because it's about the awareness. And this session, it's going to stay a lot in the blue. And it's blue as the ocean. You go deeper and deeper and you find different creatures, right? And oftentimes, I'm going to give this out, the deeper you go in the ocean, the weirder the creatures you find too. So emotional intelligence requires courage. because we're going to find critters in there. But the more you practice, you gain that emotional courage to keep doing it. So that's the awareness side, my what. Then the red color signifies the execution. Okay, I know what I feel, I know what I think, I know all that, fine. But how I'm going to move, how I'm going to act upon this. And here's where we talk about optimism. We talk about our impact on others. We talk about motivation, dealing with difficult emotions. And this is a very important side because I can have all the awareness in the world, but if I don't execute in the way I want to, I'm not going to be aligned with my purpose, which is the green area. The green area signifies my direction. What is the essence of the work that I want to do here? What is my contribution in this case? And also, very importantly, this green area contains empathy. How I'm going to bring others to do with me the work I need to be doing right now. Are my comments going to alienate them? What's going to happen later? How I'm going to build a vision, a sustainable vision to move forwards. So the model is circular because we all have different strengths to leverage from. And as such, you can start anywhere. But as I mentioned before, we're starting today in the self-awareness piece. And to the right, you're going to find a square. And you're going to see a bunch of dots. And this is basically my my little graphic that I showed to people to tell them that this looks a lot the same in many organizations that talk about emotional intelligence, study, research, and spread the word. The more emotional intelligence you can work, you can practice, you can really reflect in your day-to-day life, the better your results are going to be. Now, we're going to leave results open as a word there. I'm not going to say success because the definition of success is different for every person. But basically, the graphic is saying that whatever you want to accomplish, if you have these skills and you practice these skills, you're going to be able to be successful at that. You're going to be able to accomplish that. You're there, wherever you want to go. The potential is there, but you have to work on that. So let me go to the next slide. And if you at any point have any question, please write in the chat or just raise your hand. I'm trying to move. Oh, thank you. No, not yet. That was too fast. Ooh. God. Okay. The sensitive skin. All right. There you go. Oh, I'm trying to go into the second one. Okay, I won't touch anything. So oftentimes I get this question. It's emotional intelligence about being nice, being agreeable, saying yes to everything, right? Not making anyone upset. What do you think? I love to read your questions. Thanks, Yuli. So what do you think? Is it about being nice, agreeable? Have you ever got this rebuke from anyone that tells you, oh, that's not very emotionally intelligent? Abdullah tells us EQ is not to be nice. Exactly. Which doesn't mean that it means to be mean either, right? Do we, I mean, any of us know someone that we can say, oh, that person doesn't have emotional intelligence? I get that a lot with my clients. Not necessarily to be nice, I mean, yeah. Well, there are two myths that I always encounter with my clients. Number one is that, oh, yeah, I don't have, people sound very apologetic, right? When they come into coaching or or the group coaching or any facilitation, and they're like, no, I don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. I don't have emotional intelligence. But you know what? We all have some degree of emotional intelligence. You have to be this, basically an object, not to have anything. I mean, we're built for cooperation. We're built for emotional intelligence. That's our main language. That's our primal language. And the second one, it's when people tell you, no, but I'm not that nice. I say it as it is. Emotional intelligence is about knowing yourself and aligning your actions with your purpose. Emotional intelligence is not about satisfying people. It's not about paying lip service to people. It's about connecting people rather than alienating them. And of course, you're going to have some difference with people, but if you have emotional intelligence, you can really put forward that, your arguments, your discussions, and you can create connection. So we're gonna see how we do it in this very sensitive topic that is mental health awareness. Now, I'm going to touch this again very smoothly. No. There, it has to stay there. Okay. So how do we do this, right? We all want to be able to talk about this with our members. We all want to be able to give some advice, which we'll talk later about that. So what are your ideas? I mean, have you ever encountered a time where you wanted to talk some things about this? You want to help someone, but you don't want to go and diagnose someone. You want to be mindful, right? So how can we learn this? And the first way to do it from the emotional intelligence approach is to think about self-awareness. I'm going to touch this again and hope. It's not moving. Ari, you're going to have to help me, I guess. Thank you. Perfect. I brought you today something called the Yohari Window. The Yohari Window has been around for quite a long time, and I love to use it to bring awareness into difficult conversations. Why? Because it has different sections that we can explore with self-awareness. We as humans are subject to different influences. We don't operate in a vacuum. So when we see that someone is struggling, right? How do we land this topic with them? And it makes a whole of a difference if you think about it. How can we say something that makes someone feel ashamed and embarrassed to the point that they shut down and they never share? And months later, years later, we hear that something terrible had happened to them. We all had that situation, maybe not happen directly, but we read about it. We see that in the news. That happens. So how can we, in our positions of some sort of support, can help our staff and our members? Now, research also says that, and this is something that you probably see in your clubs, that the more economic difficulties you have, you're going to have more prevalence to suffer from any kind of mental condition, right? Why? Because it puts a stress in your life. If you were trying to cope and you didn't have enough resources to begin with, imagine if you put all of the stresses on top of that. Not to say that everybody with COVID, we've seen that the epidemic is huge when it comes to mental health. And the conversation is still not enough. The conversation is still very biased. Why? Because people are not examining their inner thoughts, their inner feelings about this. So I'm going to propose you a new framework where you can examine yourself, and you can also kind of give some ideas in your clubs to generate some activities that open floor for this conversation, okay? So the first one, if you see the first square, you're gonna see that it says known to self, known to others. This here, it's like an open landscape. When you think about mental health awareness and you want to talk about someone, about something that's happening to someone, that it's in the open, someone is behaving in a certain way, everybody can see it. How do you go onto that? What is your language? This is what everybody sees. And in this space, I want you to be mindful of labels. Now, because we talk a lot of psychology jargon, it's very outside. People will say, oh, such and such is OCD, such and such is bipolar. And we use these labels so freely. And we're diagnosing and labeling people. So this is a space for a common awareness of what is in the open. And people say it and they don't really measure in their impact. If you think about the circle in the model, that's exactly what I was telling about the impact, the execution. How are we doing this, right? It's not the same to approach someone and say, hey, I think you have, like, let's do this, right? So it's very important that we open up the conversation that focus on labels, on stigma, on how this is seen outside, right? People talk about mental illnesses, but they don't come, often they come and say, hey, this is happening to me. Yes, Abby, thank you. Yes, we have to be very mindful of our words, especially in our positions, working with people, supporting our members and our staff, okay? So this is this area. And I'm gonna ask you to grab a piece of paper and just do the same as the screen, create a quadrant, and maybe copy the words so you can have this for further exploration later. And then I'm gonna be sharing some other resources so you can go on and do this on your own, right? So this is how you open to the self, right? So now the other to the right, you're going to have what is known to others, but is unknown to you, right? So this is all the thoughts, behaviors, or things that you can project, that people see in you that you're not seeing. Oftentimes people tell us, oh, you're always doing that. And we're like, really? Our patterns, things that we don't see, that we have normalized. And this is where we need to look at ourselves too. What are the things that we have normalized? Maybe the same language from the other quadrant, we haven't normalized it in here and internalized it. Maybe I don't realize that I don't feel comfortable and I do things and I treat these people that I consider to be going through this differently and I'm not seeing it. Maybe I overprotect them and I make them kind of space away from the group with my behavior. So here is where I start deepening and going into that iceberg of self-awareness and maybe meet some creatures that I'm not gonna like. And here is also what I've been learning throughout the years and maybe some information that was, in my family, in my circle, the way people around me see things influence me. So this is the unknown to me, but others can see it. And here is where I wanna create pair conversations, maybe a group, and have people observe each other, maybe do some storytelling so people can bring awareness on themselves just by hearing how others are saying what they're saying and how they repeat it. So I can create a lot of activities on this, projects, I can create some murals in the club perhaps, and invite people to share their experiences so other people can reflect on that and say, I'm doing that, right? Survivors' stories. This is great to reflect on that. So in this space, I'm starting to take responsibility in a deeper way. Now, I want you to go to the other space to the left again. Unknown to others, so nobody knows this, but I know it. It's known to self. And here it's not a blindfold. It's not something that I'm not really aware of. Here is something that I might be doing unconsciously even to protect myself. And to be very clear, here are, in a way, all of us after COVID, our struggles, our anxiety, our depression, our journey. This is our mental health journey. And oftentimes we hide it. And it takes a long time for someone to come forward, and research says that sometimes all these sad cases that we see in the news could have been all of them prevented, because self-care and mental care, it's in the society level, it's in the community, it's not just an individual thing. But because my beliefs about it, right, what I think about it, it's maybe that this is a private matter, right? And this is what takes us back to the first quadrant, to the left quadrant, to the known to self, known to others. Oh, this is private. I can talk about this in public. So what is it happening in the other quadrant? I'm getting this mask and I'm not even conscious about it because I need to protect it, because this is a private matter. People don't do that. And here is where we start going deeper and deeper. I feel, am I feeling ashamed? Am I feeling lonely? And this is going to influence, in my opinion, great degree of how you deal with this in a conversation, how you are able to support others going through something big, because your own attitude, your own shame, your own ease on that, it's going to determine that. Make sense? Any questions up to here? And one more thing about the mask. The mask is not something we put on ourselves to necessarily lie to others, although it could be. The mask is something that we believe represent us, make us look more wholesome. And because we tend to think that because all these assumptions are biased, we're not gonna be accepted. So I know a lot of people that taken 30, 40 years to come forward with, you know, oh, I have depression, or I struggle with this, right? And here it's also good to remember that you are not your mental struggles. You're larger than that. And we need always to have that. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation. Otherwise, it'll be something that has no solution, no remedy. So in this area, you can prompt deeper activities for members, or maybe even offering coaching to staff. And because this is not all clinical. This is not all about clinical care. If we start having these conversations, people are going to be able to prevent these issues before they're going from something that they can handle or that they need the support of the community, before they come, you know, they become something super serious. Now, keep in mind how in the West we deal with mental illness. And this is going to take us to the next quadrant, to the right lower side. This is what is unknown to others and unknown to the self. And I will say it's not completely unknown. Oh, hi, Lyris. No problem. Bienvenida. So this is totally being known by psychologists, by social scientists. We know it in the research. But for the common folk, unknown to self, unknown to others, right? The fact that we have cultural bias when it comes to mental health. The fact that there are different layers of meaning to this issue. There's a political issue, there's a socioeconomic issue, there's a business side of mental health. So all these layers are invisible if you don't want to look at them, but they're there. And there's a lot of people studying them. So when we make them visible, we also have to take in consideration how these different layers of meaning have affected our own sense of how to land this. What is it? What is an important topic? What is this something that I should care about? all are these influences in ourselves. We're not just one self operating individually. So here, what is our vision to diversity? What is our vision when it comes to integrate people that have neurodivergent approaches? How do we do that? So at this level, big activities in the clubs, big interventions, art, circles, more storytelling, and surveys. Do survey your members and be creative about it. Don't go and ask them, hey, do you suffer from it? Or just try to get the data from in a different way. Use creativity, use dance, use play, and they will come forward. There are societies where mental health, it's different. It's part of your whole holistic self. And they don't have this approach that you should be in a room talking to someone and just, very, very isolated, very protected. They play drums, they do music, the community comes together, they help the healing. And this is what your clubs do without you knowing. You bring healing into these communities, you bring hope. And mental health awareness, it's about having the spark of hope somewhere in the horizon. No yet. I'm still feeling terrible today, but you know what? I see the spark. It's opening up. I'm getting closer. And this is what your clubs do every day. So you're already doing mental health prevention. But if we can learn to do it more tactically and to get better results and to get more people into treatment, or even to do more prevention, get more people to feel they belong, they care, they matter. This is the area where I have to say that everybody can be involved. Any little activities, any sharing will be very valuable. And then I'm going to share activities that you can do at every level. And some of them they're going to affect the different windows. But always, I will say that when you come with a reaction, just pause. Your best tool is the pausing. It's just, my grandmother taught me this trick about sticking my tongue up to my palate when I want to say something. And you get like paused. And just think about this window. Think about where you are. Great exercise. Before you can even land the argument. Before you can even, risk a difficult conversation. And it's basically a lifelong journey. You're never finished, especially in the unknown to others, known to you. And it's about, like I said, emotional courage. Bring it on, bring it on. And I think that COVID has given it a great opportunity to put it out there, everything. And so I hope you can do it with your members and your staff. I want to know if there are questions. I'd love to hear your questions about how to practice, although I'm going to give you a resource sheet and a video that you can look at, but be great if you have some ideas or maybe even practices that you're actually doing right now that you like to streamline, taking in consideration the ideas that emotional intelligence can bring. Let me see if they're typing in the chat. Yeah, yeah. We are vulnerable. I love that. Thanks. We are vulnerable in the sense like any one of us can go through a difficult moment or struggle with a lifelong condition, or, you know, but also being vulnerable make us closer to others, right? It's a connecting point. Yeah. Yeah. It says, I like the idea of holding your tongue. Yeah. 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 So the practice of holding the tongue is actually, you know, we intuitively, my grandmother wasn't a Buddhist, but intuitively, she knew this. And then years later, there's a practice with the conscious breathing that actually requires you to hold your tongue in the palate and breathe that way. And it's very calming on the nervous system. So if we can bring that to our clubs, this is free. I mean, you have lungs, you have the heart and the brain, you can breathe, but it's very soothing. And I was actually very surprised the other day in the business context on why people are not opening their meetings with something as simple as, let's gonna take 3 conscious breaths, 3, not half an hour, not disrupt your whole meeting. This is free. And we still get hung on the idea that you don't do this in the business place. But you have a very special space to do it because you're a community club. So you're not a community organization. You can take this further. So, getting training on conscious breathing and normalize this practice within your processes, like from the staff meeting to the parents meeting, to everybody in the organization, and every club will have a huge impact. I love that. Thank you. That's a great question, Glenn. I will say that the level of facilitation has to go, and I'm saying the format of the facilitation has to be accordingly, it has to be aligned with the level of comfort that the facilitator has. And for some people in the clubs, because we cannot train them all right at the same time, for some people it'll be easier to put forward activities maybe and bring others to generate some dynamics and generate this dialogue. Some others will be more comfortable in moderating groups, smaller groups, right? So I think that it's personalizing every approach is very important, but opening up a big floor with big activities, maybe with a mental health day awareness, or 2 or 3 throughout the year, and also try to learn all this as self-care, as healthcare, because it's really healthcare. This is health, and try to reframe the idea that this is okay, that this is something that we all need. But really, I wouldn't say do this more than other, because every club has different needs, and also they operate in different territories. So I'll say that just bring partners. There's so many people out there wanting to offer their services, like people that do artwork, that do yoga. They'll be so happy to go and collaborate. Yes, Abby. I think that one important activity is to try to create a mural or some sort of getting information, so you can meet the community where the community is at. In some communities, this is going to be much more acute. Maybe this is something temporary, what they're facing. But in some communities, this is something much more chronic. So you want to know where you at, so you can find the right partners and you can create the right activities. Because the last thing you want to trigger is to trigger people. And once I was working with a club, and this club was a veteran club, and they want to move too quick into some activities, but they have, 70% of their members had PTSD, some form of PTSD. So that was way too quick, right? And they organized this self-portrait activity. And it was shattering. I mean, how do you think someone with some degree of PTSD, I mean, and most of them were severe, could see themselves? And then when you throw that out there, to be able to grab it back and to measure the impact and to do some damage control is terrible. I mean, it's very hard to do. So we don't want to do that because we can end up hurting people even more. So we need to meet them where they at and try to find out what's going on and then activate. Now with children, it's easier because with children, we go into the prevention side and we start talking about feelings. We start talking about the weather and feelings, or maybe the colors and feelings, and try to land it that way. But it was a great question. And in the resources I'm going to provide, you're gonna find some resources for every area of the quadrant in the Yohari window. So if you feel that you wanna do something more of focusing on one area, you just can do a general activity or a personal activity or something like that. Now, there's something I want to say that I haven't mentioned about the way that sometimes we facilitate for groups and we handle this, right? If my approach, thinking about the Yohari window again, where I am with relation to gratitude, okay? If I'm into this headspace that I am a very grateful person, I give thanks for everything and all that, I have to be very mindful to the boundaries of these ideas related to mental health prevention. Because think about it, if you have to be grateful for everything, why to bring this subject forward? People get very triggered or they get very shut down with this. It's like, okay, well, you know, the feeling of I shouldn't be feeling like this. There's something wrong with me. So gratitude letters are fine. I mean, the practices that we do in Thanksgiving, for Thanksgiving, researchers find that there's always a peak, more than Christmas, more than any other religious holiday. Just Thanksgiving, because why? Thanksgiving is the holiday of being grateful, and that's amazing. And we all have to be grateful for so many things, but some people can't see it. And this is what we need to be really mindful about. Loving, accepting, environment. Yeah, I love that. Yes. I wonder if you have any practices that the ones that are here that you want to share with us. What are you doing? How are you? Now, something that I am to the point of the activities that we can recommend to our members, it's besides our conversations, and also try to be resourced with a good set of contacts where we can refer people, okay? When you're always in doubt, just refer people and ask that specialist, that person, how they want to be referred, what they think. Just try to get support, because every therapy or every school of therapy of treatment is different. So what is very common in some countries, it's psychotherapy, for instance. In other countries, like in the United States, we have more CBT, DBT, which is cognitive therapy, dialectical therapy. So they have their own ways also in which they can even come to the clubs and create an activity with cards or writing prompts. Some schools are very much into talking, others are much more into moving, into expressing, into dancing. So basically, the one size fits all doesn't work at all in this paradigm. And this is something that we can also find in the Yohari window. We can find the one size fits all in the societal model, and also in the way we see things and others see things. I mean, we see every mental health condition like the same thing, and it's not. So Abdullah is telling us that empathy, I see, very important. Yes, yes, Abdullah, empathy is very important. And the first thing is to have that empathy with ourselves and really assess where we at with honesty. When I was, yes. Yeah, yeah. And for the staff, it's always great to find ways to create a space to talk about this. Maybe some peers that check on each other, or just be coached on how to develop themselves so they can become a better resource. So here, I just mentioned some practices in the Q&A, but here I use some verbs that are very important, okay? And the first one that I use is lead, because we need to lead with ourselves. And this is something that in emotional intelligence, I'm gonna keep drilling and drilling and drilling, but it is what it is. We need to start leading with ourselves. And then this idea of providing, right? Providing, but not providing necessarily the answer, but just being comfortable with providing resources, right? And allow a space for the conversation, time, making this a priority. Something, it was mentioned, the breath. Like, why don't you look if it's possible to integrate, to normalize in your processes, right? And obtain more information. Here, your curiosity is paramount. You need to keep educating yourself, and you need to infuse that in your staff members. And depending on where we are, the context and the cultural matrix we live in, and in every country, we're gonna find some resistance. We're gonna find in some places very deep resistance that is imbued in culture. But if this is something that makes me hopeful about emotional intelligence, is that throughout the years, I've seen how emotional intelligence has the ability to shape culture, because we humans create culture. And if we start opening the floor and more people really land this subject in a different way, culture is gonna change. And this stigma and these ideas about what it is and what is not, they're gonna change. And then the other is about reaching out. Reach out to community partners, reach out for partnerships that really wanna help, that really become good resources for you. It's our temptation to feel that we got it. Oh, I know how to do this. This is what I needed. But this keeps the stuff in the surface, and you need to go a little bit deeper in the iceberg, because you need to explore the depth. I mean, this is about how I am seen. I'm not gonna share with you that freely. You probably, when I share it, maybe it's too late, right? So you need to understand that this is something very, very personal for people, very, very, very close to the skin. And then get more training. I mean, I wish it'll be only 1 day training and that day you learn everything. But I've been I've been in this field for so long, and I know that it's still so much that I have to learn. I'm probably never gonna finish learning. So we don't become experts ever ourselves. The world is changing, the other people change, and we change. So for that reason, we never become experts at anything. And if you get training, if you get some assessments, some ways to really bring finesse into this topic, that will help and serve your members and serve your communities and allow them to grow. So the verbs are related to action, okay? They're not passive, and this is the key of emotional intelligence. When I came here for this presentation, I thought about this. I'm like, most cases people want to do this. They have the will, they have the heart to do it. They don't know how to do it. So what? They don't do it. So that's why in the emotional intelligence 6 second model with 6 seconds, we use verbs. Know yourself, right? Choose yourself, because give yourself. Otherwise, we just leave it in the abstract. And we have millions of books on emotional intelligence in the abstract. So the idea with the verbs is that you just follow and take action as soon as you can, because this is a really, really pressing matter in every community. I haven't seen any community that can say, no, here we're fine. We don't, no, everywhere in the world. Thank you. Yes, EQ is not about knowing. Yes, yes.
So we have just a couple of minutes left with our webcast today. I know we've been asking questions as we go, but this is our last opportunity today to ask questions of Fiorella about emotional intelligence. So please feel free to drop a question in the chat or unmute yourself and ask the question.
An active participation, yes. Thank you. Yeah. But if anyone has a question, I have a question for each one of you. And actually 2 questions, right? I love to know, what are you taking? What is the most impacting thing you're taking with you today? And that's something that I'm asking you to please share with everybody. And this other question is not to share if you don't want to, but just think about you, your own person. What is your growing edge with this matter? Your own personal, let's not say a struggle, but your own growing edge. What is the area of these 4 windows where you need to put more attention to in the next months, weeks? Sure. Let's bring back the slide for the, let's see. Oh, thank you. The window,
sorry.
right?
The window slide? Sure.
This is the window slide, yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. Great, Martin. Yes. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, we are right at the end of our hour, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. And we could keep talking for probably hours about this topic. I know Fio could share so much more with us, but I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. And of course, a very special thank you to Fiorella and to 6 Seconds for sharing all of these practical tips and tools. And I don't know about you, but I will definitely be using the Yohari Window in my work, and I hope you all will too. We will follow up with you over email next week with the recorded session. Please share this with your staff, with your team members, with whoever you think might want to learn a little bit more about emotional intelligence. A couple of quick updates and reminders for the network. We will have the follow-up email and the survey sent out next week. Our next webcast, please save the date or register. It is available now on our website. And our next webcast is May 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And it's all about social media 101. And we have a lot to cover in that session. Please note, if you are joining us from a youth club that's a member of WFYC, the Promise Award applications open this Sunday, May 1st, and they are open for the entire month of May. So please visit the WFYC website to take a look at the application process and get those nominations ready and in before May 31st. Thank you all for joining us today. It was a pleasure being here with you. Fiorella, thank you again for your expertise and for your learning and sharing with us today. We're grateful for your time and for sharing your knowledge with our community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Abby, thanks for inviting me. And remember, we are all the spark. We have the spark of hope. We carry that torch.
Thank you.